Hi, and welcome to another list of Creators 101 for Too Sexy 11. So Too Sexy is like a structured content module headless CMS plugin for DNN. And in the previous videos, we've been building an app for managing our bucket list. We've made it multi-language. We've added pictures that automatically resize and crop. We've added fields and a bunch of stuff. And now we're actually going to make it a list, because the previous app was always just one item. So we're going to look on how to configure a list to do that, a view, and how we're going to actually make that the template knows this and outputs each item. And we're going to go through this and explain a few factors of how content lists work, because they're a little bit different from data lists, which we'll look at in a future video. So remember, if you need any additional material, including links to the future and previous videos, checklists, additional API documentations, go to this link and let's get started. So what we have here is the previous version of our app. Basically, it's a single item thing. I could, of course, add additional apps to the page. I could go ahead and say, okay, I need another one of these and I would like to show another idea. And I could go ahead and work like that. But of course, that doesn't feel like a list now, does it? So let me go ahead and just delete this block again. So what we actually want to do is we want to create a list. And for this, we're going to go to the app management again. And as you can see, we now have the introduction view, which we created in the first video, and the one idea view. Now let's go ahead and create another view, and we'll call this list of ideas. We're going to create a new file, ideas list, and we're also still going to say it's showing an idea. We're going to give it a demo item just so it initially already shows something when you add it to the page. And now we're also going to go and say that it should be treated as a list. So in the previous implementation, it was just always showing one thing. Now that we're enabling a list, and by the way, I accidentally configured the one to also enable a list. Let me just quickly set that back. So now you can see the one idea view shows that it just shows one item, whereas the list, because it has that toggle on, shows that it's going to show an item of lists. So far, pretty simple. Now, let's look at this and change the view of the data to show the list of ideas. So we're kind of saying still take the same data, but let's show it in a different view now. So basically, remember we just created a new template. This is not super exciting yet, and this is why we don't get anything shown. Let's now open the code editor. I'm going to zoom in to about 130%. I hope you can see that. And now we're going to copy paste the previous template one-to-one like this. So this is what we had before. I'm just going to save this and refresh. So right now it says it's a list, but it doesn't do anything else than it did before. You might notice there is now a plus button here. This was missing before, but except for that, nothing's happening. Let me just add a new item and see what happens. I'm going to say add another one. And one of the things on my bucket list, I've done it so far, but it was on my bucket list for a long time, is try sur streaming. This is a Swedish specialty of rotten fish. Rotten fish can must bulge. So this is actually true. So the Swedish, they have this traditional specialty, and the can must bulge. The fish has to really like rot in it, and it's an acquired taste, but it's good. So I just added this now, and you'll notice it's not showing up anywhere. So something's wrong. We said it's a list. I was able to add another item, but I don't see it. So let's find out what's going on. If I look at my template right now, we're just showing this item called content. And content is always the first or only item or the demo item, remember? So what we're going to do next now is, first of all, we're just going to quickly give this a new name. This stuff that I'm writing here is Razor. This is C#. We have a whole tutorial just on doing Razor and all kinds of cool stuff. But for now, let's just save our idea is the content. You'll see in a second why we're doing this. And now we're just going to write idea here, and let me just do a search and replace here with Control H. Let's just replace this one, replace this one, replace. That one, of course, we do not want to replace. At the moment, we should still be doing the same thing as before. Let me just reload this. Nothing happened, so this is as expected. And now we want to actually make this show up multiple times, because right now it's still just showing the first one. Let's go to the snippets, to the list, and say we want to add a repeater, a for each loop. This for each loop would show items with the name cont. Let's use the term idea. And as you can see, that's basically it. Now, this would already loop them. I'm just going to save this now just to have a quick peek at what happens. And you'll notice that the loop now should show an error. Ah, it's because we're already using the term idea. So it's not too happy with that. Yeah, let's skip this short demo and just move this into the loop and kill this variable now. So we're still doing the same thing, but instead of setting it to be content, we're now going to loop it as is appropriate. Let's check that out. Ta-da! I can now see both items. So let me just explain what happened, and then I'll show you another 2 or 3 cool things. So the first thing is now we're saying that idea is not just content. It's actually being based on whatever's in the data. Now, I told you before how the data you add automatically is like injected into this template by 2Sexy. So data is much, much more. It's not just one item. It's also actually more than just a list of items. It can be a list of many items. But in this case, we're just expecting our main item list to be ideas. So it's going to be treated as a list, and it's going to loop through it. This is what the for each means. For each idea that you can find in this list, let's do this. So it's pretty simple, right? We're just using the same code, the same output. Now, maybe we'd also like to add a number. Just for the sake of doing this, let me add let's say we have a count. Again, this is just C# code. And now where we have the idea, let's write number count. Let's see what happens. So it's number 1 every time. And let's say that it should make the count bigger every time we do this. See that? Ta-da. You could, of course, also use a numbered list or something, then you could skip this, but this is just a super simple way to do it. And let me just continue demonstrating what this concept of the list does. For example, I could just go here and say, let's move this one up by 1. Now I've just swapped these positions. I could also edit the list here with a drag and drop UI and say, okay, I want to reorganize them as I would like to have them. I can add more items. So let me add a placeholder item here, and in here I could actually replace this placeholder slot with the surströmming again. So you'll notice that a list of items is something that the content editor can actually control. It's not the same thing as a database where I'm querying the data. This is a constructed list under the control of the content manager. The other stuff works as well, it's just a little different. But in terms of managing content, this is the way people would usually like to do it. They want to have control of the order they show things. They want to select what things to show. And the other model, we're going to look at in a future video. So this was it for creating a list. Thank you for watching, and see you soon on the next tutorial. Daniel for the DNN and 2Sexy community.